This is an exact copy of my left collarbone, printed in a bone-like material. And this is that exact same collarbone, but coated in 1,000 microns of NANOTECH alloy, real-life adamantium. And this is our world's largest Thor hammer, weighing 4,444 pounds. And this tiny thin coating of a super alloy is so strong, we can pick this up. Where will it shoot if it breaks?
At you.
At me, all right. Real-life adamantium. I am being held up by a one-to-one copy of my collarbone. This is kind of terrifying. All right, bring me down.
Can't believe that.
We found real-life adamantium. To explain how we got here, we gotta back up a little bit. Wait, please, I'm trying to do a video here.
Deadpool 3 is now in theaters. Go watch me and Hugh save the world.
Anyway, could you coat your bones in advanced adamantium-like alloy using nanotechnology? How much more durable would you be? Would you be invincible? Take this ping pong ball, for example. It's pretty strong due to its round shape, but not that strong. This is the same ping pong ball, but it's been coated with a 300 micron thick layer of an advanced alloy. That's about 12 thousandths of an inch, or about the thickness of 3 human hairs. The proprietary coating is from Integrin, a company that specializes in nanotech coatings, having worked for the likes of NASA and the nuclear industry. It might look like a steel ball bearing, but it weighs next to nothing, being completely hollow, and still bounces. But this super thin metal coating, it has an ultimate strength of 1,600 megapascals. For the Americans in the audience, if you multiply that by 145, you get pounds per square inch, which means this material has an ultimate strength of 232,000 pounds per square inch. That's insane. For example, if you had a solid 1-inch cube of this material, like this, you could put 232,000 pounds on it, or about 2 fully loaded 737s balanced on their noses. In reality, the planes would squish under their own weight, but it's a nice visual, right? Now, since this is just a hollow ping pong ball, unlike the solid cube example I just gave you, it's not that strong, but it's still incredibly strong. Yeah. It's pretty strong. In fact, in Integrin's lobby, they actually have this ping pong ball on display, supporting 200 pounds of Olympic weights. It's super cool, and we think we might actually sell them at Hacksmith store. Now, in case you didn't know, a few years ago, I broke my hand during a video. Oh! From the moment I understood the weakness of my flesh, it disgusted me. I craved the strength and certainty of steel. Yep. Now I have a titanium plate in my hand, thanks to Dr. Chris Rayner, a fellow YouTuber and surgeon. And my hand is probably stronger now because of it, but what if you could skip that whole step of breaking your bones and putting them back together with titanium, and just have metal-plated, indestructible bones in the first place? If it wasn't obvious, Wolverine is my favorite superhero. I mean, we're both Canadian, and Full Metal Wolverine claws? That was actually my very first Make It Real project 15 years ago. Long before I had even come up with a name for the series called Make It Real. They were for an epic Halloween costume, and I built them during an internship for a machine shop. Since then, I've electrified them, I've made bone claws, and I've even made a pair of self-healing claws, which I know is kind of ironic since the whole point of having an indestructible skeleton is being indestructible. But hey, the YouTube short on it has over 250 million views now. Funny enough, my dad was a huge fan of Talking Heads back in the day. I really liked Wolverine Origins, unlike most people, and seeing Logan's transformation into Weapon X really got me thinking, could we become enhanced like him? Can we use technology to make our own bodies go beyond evolution? With advances in gene editing, accelerated healing may be within our reach in our lifetime. In fact, I'm actually working on another project with a doctor at the forefront of regenerative medicine on a super soldier serum project.
He's gonna be genetically modified in just a second.
But more on that later. Let's figure out how to make my bones indestructible by coating them in the real-life version of adamantium, called NANOTECH.
Can't tell if it's love or carbon monoxide. I'm getting lightheaded. I like it.
First off, what is bone? Hang on one sec.
5 minutes later.
All right, that's a bit better. What if I told you we already have metal skeletons? One of the primary ingredients in bone is calcium, and calcium is actually a metal. Pretty cool, right? Now I'm sure you've heard this fact thrown around. Did you know bone is 5 times stronger than steel? What's the point in coating my skeleton in metal if our bones are already stronger? Well, kind of. The part of that fact that always gets cut off is the end. Stronger by strength to weight ratio. So what's that mean? Well, by mass, bone is stronger than the equivalent amount of steel in certain cases. Take the density of steel and divide it by the density of bone, and we now know that bone is 8.53 times lighter than steel. Effectively, that means you could take 8.5 bones and they would weigh as much as one solid steel bone. But 8.5 bones would be stronger than that one steel bone. In fact, if you run the numbers, those 8.5 bones end up being about 5 times stronger than that steel bone. To make things even more complicated, bone is actually a composite. Bone is made up of 2 different types of bone: cortical bone, or compact bone, and cancellous bone, spongy bone. The compact bone is essentially the shell, and that's where the strength comes from. Here, let me show you.
It smells so nasty.
Ugh. Oh, that's worse than I thought it'd be. We could go into further detail about bones, but let's be real here. That's not why you're here, and I'm not a doctor. So short of removing one of my bones to coat it in metal, how exactly are we going to figure out how much stronger my skeleton would be with a layer of indestructible metal on it? Well, we need to be able to manufacture a bone analog to test our hypothesis. The best material I have on hand that's reasonably close to the strength of bone is this glass fiber reinforced nylon from my Pantheon 3D printer. Its ultimate tensile strength is only 89 megapascals, which is only about 65% of cortical bone at 135, but it is almost 18 times stronger than cancellous bone. You win some, you lose some. Luckily, I can probably just print a more dense bone out of the nylon to match the strength of human bone, which isn't 100% cortical bone. So hopefully I can get pretty close in strength. And also, real quick note, bone analog is possible to make via casting, sometimes using materials like polyurethane, but that's a bit outside of the scope of this project, so we're just trying to establish a reasonable baseline for our experiments. Now, technically, using my new Prusa XL 3D printer, I could print the bone as a composite with 2 different materials for the cortical and cancellous bone. But I think we're already making this more complicated than it needs to be, and since I can't even match the strength of cortical bone with plastic, we're going to have to rely on having some more of the nylon to reach the overall strength of a human bone. Now, I still want to test real bone, so I bought some off the internet. Elk leg bones, to be precise. Crazy what you can buy on Etsy. I'm going to 3D scan one of these using the RevoPoint Mirror Scanner, which is the most user-friendly 3D scanner I've ever used. Then I can take the 3D model and 3D print it out of the glass fiber nylon to test it. Ta-da! Real bone. Well, real bone analog. I also printed several different variations, each with different wall thicknesses of bone. Now, based on the numbers, assuming a lot of things, the real bone should still be stronger than this 3D printed one, but hopefully one of these will have comparable strength. So let's find out and see which one breaks first. Now, I could just go caveman on these bones. But anyway, you clicked on this video because I said I coated my skeleton in metal. We need a 3D model of my skeleton. How hard could that be? But before we get to that, I want to quickly show you something I've been working on that I'm really excited about. Ben and I have spent the past few months designing and manufacturing a prototype product for Hacksmith.store. It's called the Smith Blade, an everyday carry, reimagined titanium multi-tool pocket knife that looks like it's straight out of sci-fi. You see, when I was a kid, I was a Boy Scout, and the motto was always be prepared, which is definitely something that's carried through into being the Hacksmith. And I loved my Swiss Army knife. Today, the EDC tool market is dominated by just a few companies. And don't get me wrong, there are some incredible multi-tools out there. I love having pliers on me at any given time. After all, like Adam Savage says, every tool's a hammer. The right tool is the one at hand. But most multi-tools are usually too bulky or heavy for me to keep on my belt at all times. I need something smaller, something I can take with me everywhere. Plus, it fits perfectly into the belt loop on the new Smith pants, also coming soon. And the best form of invention, or innovation, is born of necessity. I designed the Smith Blade to solve a problem in my life, and that problem is being cursed with the knowledge of how to fix things, but not always having tools with me to do it. I know you're gonna love this knife. We've managed to fit a dozen tools into a slim package that weighs just over 100 grams. It features a reverse Tanto style blade, complete with a file on the back edge, usable in both positions. It's got a bottle opener and pry bar, a ruler on the backside, and a glass breaking tool and metal scribe, some tweezers, a 4mm hex driver integrated into the end, and integrated storage for 4 4mm hex bits, including a pen. It's awesome, and the prototype has already saved my butt numerous times. Not only do I carry this personally every day, but my team does as well. So these have been tested on a day-to-day basis to prove this is the best product we've ever made and the best multi-tool you can own. I'm hoping to launch this in the next few months, and we'll even be manufacturing the Founders Edition right here in Herc. It'll be a limited run, so sign up for updates at Hacksmith.store to make sure you don't miss the opportunity to get your hands on one of the best products we've ever designed. Alright, so a 3D model of my skeleton. Well, I've got a bunch of MRIs of my spine from over the years because of the back pain I've been dealing with since 2020. Now, I'm happy to say that my back is actually doing a lot better thanks to some cutting-edge technology in Dubai with a doctor I know who's at the forefront of regenerative medicine. And maybe a little thanks to the super soldier serum I took while I was there. But more on that in a future video, because you know, just coating my skeleton isn't enough to become Wolverine. So, these are my MRIs, and this is the open source medical imaging software called Slicer.org. It's got a pretty steep learning curve, but it's pretty fascinating when you get the hang of it. I looked up some tutorials on creating 3D models from your medical images, and, well, since MRIs are for soft tissue typically, it turns out it's not great for getting a 3D model of your bones out of it. But it looks like if you get a CT scan done, it's relatively easy to get a 3D model of your skeleton out of those files. CT scans are a bit more expensive than MRIs, and typically you don't have them done unless you've got some serious medical issues. It's a lot of radiation because a CT scan is like a rotating X-ray. But unlike when you get a broken bone X-rayed, which might be 3 or 4 X-rays at different angles, a CT scan is hundreds to thousands of X-rays rotating around your body. Yikes. Luckily, technology has come a long way, and while it used to kind of be a last resort style of imaging, the newer equipment is significantly safer. Or at least that's what I'm told. I'm not a doctor. So I started calling up different medical imaging clinics to see if anyone would let me take a optional, just for research, CT scan. And luckily, I found the perfect business called CanMax Medical Imaging, run by a guy named Generino. I like what CanMax Medical Imaging is offering. I met with the team, and part of their goal is getting Canadians the medical imaging they need, fast and affordable. Generino offered to bring me down to one of their partner clinics in Buffalo, called Western New York MRI.
My name is Generino Lamacchia. I'm the president and founder of CanMax Medical Imaging. We're standing in front of the PET-CT scanner. Today, James has joined us to do a CT scan where we're going to do a 3-dimensional reconstruction of those CT slices.
That's pretty neat. Can you zoom in on the skull?
Does that not give you a little bit of like chills?
Oh god. Alright, now I'm getting some like existential dread.
This is really cool.
I'll have to make a miniature 3D printed model. We can sell keychains with my skeleton. It's a good thing that I'm not the tallest guy around because I was just short enough to be scanned fully in a single pass. Guess I've got that in common with my favorite hero as well. They also sat me down with another doctor and radiologist for almost an hour, and we went through my entire scan looking for any abnormalities, and I'm happy to say I've got a clean bill of health. Would have been pretty ironic if we discovered something after doing the CT scan for this project, though it probably would have made for a better video. Armed with my CT scan in hand, we can finally get this project started for real. I popped open the files in Slicer, and wow, the CT scan really does capture everything. You can even see the veins in my arms. You can see the wrinkles in the t-shirt I was wearing, the metal and screw in my hands, and even the stainless steel wire from a hernia repair I had done a few years ago. This is so cool. The software shows a volume rendering of my skeleton, but unfortunately that's just a graphical representation, and you can't actually just export it as an STL file for 3D printing. As it turns out, there's actually a lot of manual work to get a good 3D model out of these images, because they're essentially just grayscale slices of my body, where the brighter the color, the more dense the substance being X-rayed is. Makes sense. Remember how bone has a spongy bone center where the marrow is? Well, the front of your ribs don't even show up in the default settings because they're more cancellous than compact bone. You need to tweak the threshold values to create a 3D model. But even then, to get a really good 3D model, you have to go in and essentially paint or rotoscope out the bones to create the model, slice by slice. That much manual work, plus my level of OCD and perfectionism, this is going to take a while. I took my time and painted out my left collarbone. I chose the collarbone because it's a very common bone to break. It's nice and small, so it'll be easy to 3D print a lot of them, and we should be able to do our tests quite easily with it. For the rest of the skeleton though, it's gonna take a while, so let's just print the collarbone for now. Ta-da! One Hacksmith collarbone. Funky. Okay, now that we have one of my bones in a similar-ish material to bone, it's almost time to coat it in metal. But these are strong printed this way, but weak printed this way, which means I'm going to need the collarbone printed in a different method, something that is a bit more homogeneous and isotropic. In fact, it's one of the oldest 3D printing technologies, stereolithography, or SLA for short. Now, we do have some resin printers here, but since we're going to need a lot of bones, I went to jlc3dp.com instead. They offer incredible prices and super fast turnaround times for 3D printing and even CNC machining. I decided to order every material they offered to find the strongest, most similar to bone beyond the ones we have printed here in-house, all at 100% density. My bones. Look at all of them. So many different materials. I even had a few printed out of metal. Pure 316L stainless steel. It's so heavy. Imagine how heavy I'd be if my entire skeleton was made of pure metal, and not just metal plated. Wait, I don't even need to imagine. I can calculate that. I would weigh 330 pounds, or almost 150 kilograms.
Man, you're heavy. Yeah, I put on a little weight recently.
Without any of my external proportions changing. Imagine how hard I could punch. We've got to decide which one of these bones we're going to use for all our tests going forwards, and the one that we're actually going to metal plate. I think it's going to be this one, but engineering is all about practical science. So let's go back to school and prove this is the strongest bone. And then we can coat it in metal. You might be wondering what I've been doing while the Hacksmith does all the work. Was I watching him from the shadows? Maybe. But I was definitely playing Marvel Snap. It's a fast-paced, deck-building, card-battling, claw-rattling game where players battle against each other in an epic matchup of wits and creativity, with a chance to bluff for even bigger rewards as you climb through the ranks. Each game only takes 3 minutes, so you have to think fast to make the most of every opportunity to outplay or outbluff your opponents. The current season of Marvel Snap is themed all around Deadpool and Wolverine, so hot tip, make a deck that features the Deadpool card who returns to your hand with double the power every time he's destroyed. It's kind of OP. And speaking of Deadpool, Marvel Snap just put out a limited time event called Deadpool's Diner, where you can earn up to 32 rewards, including a brand new card, Cassandra Nova. But act fast, the mode is only live until August 6th. And besides the addicting gameplay, at the core of Marvel Snap is art. The game is packed with thousands of amazing card art variants created by renowned artists from across the globe. Your eyeballs and inner collector will thank you. So what are you waiting for? Right after you finish watching this video, go check out Marvel Snap and get those login rewards. You don't want to miss the exclusive Deadpool variant reward on day 7. Use my link below to download the game and play. Big thank you to Marvel Snap for sponsoring this portion of the video. Hard to believe I graduated 12 years ago now. Luckily, I still know some of the profs here, and I got access to the material science lab. All right, we got the instrong calibrated, and we've got all of our samples, so time to run through all of them and find the closest bone analog we have. Please be the strongest. 900! All right, we're gonna order 30 of these and have them metal plated. So we got our data from the 3-point bend test, but now we're gonna do an impact test using the Sharpie machine again. But I've got another set of samples of each material. This is by far the scariest machine here. Get your safety gear at Hacksmith.store. And Wade, you want some?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, suit yourself. Load it up.
Oh! Oh! Oh!
Wade. All right. All right, so these are all the specimens that we tested, and right off the bat, we can tell that any of these long ones that have a big curve we don't want, because that means they had some plastic deformation, which means the bone would have bent instead of breaking, which limits us to any of these more straight lines. And the best performing one is the one I was expecting, the neon colored bone, which is resin 8228. When we look at the Sharpie test results, we can also see the neon or the 8228 resin also performed pretty well. Imagine Black was slightly better, but the tolerance of that machine was questionable at best, so I'm happy with these results. Just as I predicted, this faintly green, almost radioactive looking material is our strongest contender, so let's order 30 more. Now, I was hoping to electroplate these bones ourselves here in the shop, but unfortunately it's actually a lot harder than it looks. We should probably let a professional shop do it. But luckily, it turns out that the world leader in metallurgical nanotechnologies is just an hour away. The company is called Integrin, and they're pushing the boundaries of lighter, better, and cheaper with their patented electrodeposited nanocrystalline nanovate metal platform.
I'm not reading all that.
Just like adamantium, their coating process even has a cool name, nanovate. Not quite Iron Man nanotechnology that everyone's been bugging me to recreate, but it's pretty close. You see, this isn't your normal run-of-the-mill electroplating process. Their proprietary process actually forms a nanocrystalline grain structure in the alloys during coating, hence nanotechnology. But what does that even mean? I'll try and explain it simply. One of the main factors of how strong a metal is based on the crystalline grain structure of the alloy that you can see under a microscope. If you're familiar with knives as an example, you'll know that they can be heat treated to be made stronger via tempering or annealed to be made weaker and easier to work with. What's actually happening when you heat treat, quench, and temper a knife is the reforming of the grain structure of the metal to be smaller. The grains shrink in size to increase strength, typically in the 5 to 30 micron range. The opposite occurs when annealing. The reason Integrin's coating is so incredible is because the alloy is grown in the nanometer scale for the crystalline structure, with no heat treating required. The average grain size can be as small as 5 nanometers, and a nanometer is a thousandth of a micron, which is a thousandth of a millimeter, which means the grain structure of Integrin's coating is almost 1,000 times smaller than a normal heat-treated steel. Now, according to Integrin, they have had some of their nanovate alloy made using a more traditional electroplating process where the grain size is in the 1 to 2 micron range. Its tensile strength, only about 400 to 500 megapascals, about the same as steel. But when they coat a part using their process, they can get the grain size down to as small as 5 nanometers, over 200 times smaller, and its ultimate strength jumps up 5x to 2,000 megapascals. That's crazy. So why is this important? Well, being able to turn complicated 3D printed parts into super strong composites with a metallized layer on the outside, it's potentially game-changing for low production run parts. The machining, forming, or casting required to make a complicated metal part is super expensive and time-consuming, and only comes down in price with mass production. Metal 3D printing is advancing, but it's still super expensive. With their nanovate coating, you could turn a part that you printed on a cheap resin 3D printer into a production-grade composite part with the strength to match. This is huge. And even better, when we told them about our idea, they were all in to help make it happen. All right, here they are. Yeah, these look awesome. Okay, so we got the copper, and we got the N1210 alloy, and then the R3010, the super strong stuff.
Yeah, so we have the two different alloys. It's the nickel cobalt material, which has the 1600 MPa tensile strength, and then the cobalt phosphorus coating, which has the 2000 MPa tensile strength.
That feels so weird because it's so light,
Yeah.
but it looks like copper.
Yeah, so that's just the copper coating. So they all have a base layer of copper. And then the nickel cobalt ones have the copper and nickel cobalt, and the cobalt phos have the copper, nickel cobalt, and cobalt phos top layer.
But I'm really excited to see these results. I'm gonna have to weigh each of them too, so we can basically grade them based on mass as well as strength, because for all we know, the more typical alloy you use, the 1210, might perform better in certain circumstances, or based on weight. So it'll be interesting to see.
Excellent. I look forward to seeing the results.
All right. Thanks again.
Yeah, thanks.
So we've got all of our samples metal plated, and now we're gonna see just how strong they are. So this is just the plain bone analog, and it's bending. Well, it's the same as last time, which means the data will be comparable. So all of these actually have the same coating of copper on them, because it's the first step of the electroplating process. So I thought it would be interesting to see, because copper isn't actually a very strong material, it's very ductile. It's gonna be like slightly stronger than the bare bone. Slightly stronger by one. That's crazy. By about 0.8 of a kilogram force. Moving up to the 150 microns of the N1210 NANOTECH. That was a nice bone. 52 pickup with my skeleton.
That's disgusting.
All right, here we go. That seemed early. That already over doubled the strength and quadrupled the Young's modulus, which we don't think is correct in the software because it's a complex shape, not a simple bar. But that's awesome. All right, so we're going to double the thickness. All right, everyone ready? We're up to a Young's modulus of 5,300. And that was over 536 kilogram force. This is amazing. It's all going according to plan. All right, so now we're doubling that again. We've gone up to 10,000 on the Young's modulus when we start at 840. It is doubling quite nicely, like 500 to 1,000. And we're not even done yet. We got one more thickness to go. And this isn't even the strong alloy. We are up to 1 millimeters of the N1210. Like that is solid. That had a funk.
They knocked the bar off of the press. The anvil.
We're working on breaking the machine. Okay, here we go. Calculations. It is scaling exactly the way you think it would.
Yeah.
We're literally up to 2,100 kilograms. We started with the bare bone 133. And the Young's modulus, the software's best attempt at calculating that. This is the exciting part because we're moving on to the other alloy that they use specifically for structural. It's 2,000 megapascal ultimate tensile strength. Oh. Wow, you can see the metal folding and rippling. Whoa. All right, let's run the numbers. 686. So, yep, stronger than the other alloy. So, speaking of breaking things, have you looked at the edge? We are defeating the tool steel. You can just look at that and be like, yeah, that's some good quality steel.
Well, it is.
And this thin coating of our super alloy, that's A2 tool steel.
Yeah.
500 micrometers of R3010, sample number 9. Oh, it's gonna be violent. We're almost done.
Do you know what's interesting though about how this is breaking? Like it's, as you get up to the thicker materials, you see how it's not coming like in a perfect shear line. It's leaving, even the other material left this large tab.
We can literally see the other alloy. It did not bond super well. The other alloy outperformed at that thickness. Oh, this is where it changed. Young's modulus is still higher, so technically better. But that's interesting. We're gonna have to go over these calculations. We're on to hypothetically the strongest bone. 50 microns of copper, 150 microns of N1210, and then 1.2 millimeters of the R3010, which again has the UTS of 2,000 megapascals. Normal steel is about 400. It's hard to tell because they all seem to like fail like different timing wise. Huh. Yeah, the other alloy actually outperformed it. Now, I wonder if that has anything to do with delamination that we saw, because they're not acting as one. Because I feel like based on the earlier number, if we just had like a pure 1.5 millimeter layer of 3010, it would probably perform better. This is solid, it's pure 100% stainless steel. So I wanted to print this one as a kind of other baseline of if you just had full out metal bones, how strong would they be? 316L stainless steel. I think it's gonna bend and not break. Oh, we didn't.
Fixture.
That was lucky.
Yeah.
So that's why you wouldn't want bones made of stainless steel, because if Wolverine got into a fight with Magneto, he could literally make him a human pretzel and he wouldn't be able to heal his way out of, ooh, that would be torture. Ooh, it took a big force though, 1,500. So the second highest force, but it deflected 26 millimeters. If you look right here, you see how the purple line is straight, but only up to about 200, and then it starts. So that's the plastic deformation zone. If we stop the test at around 200, this bone would have rebounded and become straight. We're actually getting a more standard stress strain graph. So we got our data from the 3-point bend test. We're gonna see how these line up with a true impact force. Yep, the copper provided 0 protection. That's stronger. Locked in at about 45 foot-pounds. Woohoo, there we go. We're up to 80 foot-pounds. 76. Woohoo! It is showing the data we want to see. 120 foot-pounds. 140. 190. Here we go. Second last one. Only 140. So there's something about the combination of them that doesn't actually do it any justice. Time for the next dangerous one. Pure stainless bone. It's also a little inaccuracy in the picture here. It's a good thing I'm not defending a doctorate or something. Yes! Yeah, baby! Ooh, okay, so why did that happen? Because the stainless steel is not actually as strong as our super alloy NANOVEIGHT, but stainless steel has a lot more ductility. So I guarantee when we pull it out, it's gonna be bent a little bit. And basically it absorbed all the impact, all the potential energy into bending the stainless steel just a little bit. It didn't move. Wow. I graphed all the data from the tests, and I think we found our real-life version of adamantium. By coating our bone analog in just 1,000 microns of the NANOVEIGHT N1210 alloy, it performed 16.4 times stronger than bone, breaking at 21,000 newtons of force. That's approximately 2,100 kilograms, or around 4,600 pounds. To put that in a different perspective that is easier to understand, the bone analog broke at about 1,300 newtons, about 133 kilograms, or nearly 300 pounds. If I loaded up a barbell with 300 pounds and balanced it on my collarbone, hypothetically, that's right around the weight that might break the collarbone. Now, obviously, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to break my collarbone. But imagine having bones 16.4 times stronger than they are now by coating them in NANOVEIGHT. I would weigh a bit more, but it wouldn't be that crazy. 213 pounds, 50 pounds more than I do right now, but my skeleton would be 16.4 times stronger. Which means, for the exact same example, I could load this barbell up with 2,100 kilograms or 4,600 pounds. It's hard to visualize that because that would be well over 4 times the world record for the maximum human squat. They don't make a barbell big enough or strong enough to hold that kind of weight. But you know what is easy to visualize? This is our world's largest Thor hammer, weighing in at 4,444 pounds, or about 2,015 kilograms, which conveniently is just under the ultimate strength of our NANOVEIGHT bone, which means we should be able to pick up this hammer using just this bone. But first, I'll show you what happens with a normal bone. So obviously this is just gonna snap. All right, let's try it again, but this time with the NANOVEIGHT. Yeah, a bit more. All right, nice and slow.
Oh my God!
Hell yeah! Real life adamantium bone. This is crazy. I did not expect it to actually work. That collarbone has 1 millimeter of the super alloy.
Oh my God!
Whoa, look at it vibrate. I don't like that. This makes it look light.
You're worthy.
I'm so strong. All right, set her down. I am trusting this real life adamantium. Where will it shoot if it breaks?
At you.
At me, all right. Real life adamantium. I am being held up by a 1-to-1 copy of my collarbone. This is kind of terrifying. All right, bring me down. Look at that. We did it.
I can't believe that.
We found real life adamantium. All right, let's see if there's any damage on this thing. I don't see a single mark on this thing.
Can you tell where we lifted it?
That's maybe a little scuff right there.
Great.
Also, this isn't even our best sample. You see those pockets? During the electroplating process, there are some bubbles. So this is actually like a compromised bone. And it still held up the Thor hammer. So for reference, this is how thick the coating is. About 1 millimeter, 1,000 microns. We've shown just how strong these NanoVate bones are, but I want to show it in a more practical sense. I've painstakingly recreated the scenario in which I broke my own hand. Complete with an air cannon and capable of shooting baseballs at over 100 miles per hour. Let's see what happens to this bone hand. That wasn't just the 5th metacarpal, that was literally everything. It's amazing how much flesh and muscle keep your bones from exploding everywhere. It didn't stand a chance. I had the same hand printed and coated in NanoVate. Let's see how it fares. It's revenge for my hand. All right, 100-mile-per-hour baseball versus my metal hand. Well, it came off the bat, but 0 damage. Now, that was about 100 miles per hour, but we can crank this thing up to 11. We clocked it at over 150 miles per hour if we put a bit more pressure in.
The fastest pitch recorded in the world, I think, is around 105 miles an hour. So this is way beyond human being limits.
Charge her up. Wade, do you want to do the honors?
I thought you'd never ask. 3, 2, 1.
Did that break the bat?
I don't.
Oh, it's cracked. What the? Look at the crack.
Where's your hand, man? Where's your hand?
Guys,
Where did that land?
over there.
Over there?
Yeah, it hit the wall.
What?
All right, I want to see this bat break. 3, 2, 1. Whoa! It broke the bat. And it bent the metal holding the bat.
This almost made it to the kitchen through the mechanical room. And if you feel that, it's not round anymore.
You know, I've been thinking, who needs claws when you have metal bones? They say watermelon's a good analog for human flesh. It's even got a good handle hold, you know? All right, I may have gotten carried away, but I prepared something that I like to call the hand axe. Unlimited power. All right, so obviously I want to do my whole skeleton, but we don't have time for this video, but I did get the top half of my skull metal plated NanoVate. So first off, we'll break the normal one. All right, one plain skull printed in nylon. Let's try the metal one. Let's see what this can do.
My turn, my turn, my turn. Aw.
Wait, what do you expect? It's a broomstick. I'm Wolverine. Come on.
Aw.
That's an adamantium skull. We need something bigger. I got it. We scuffed it! We scuffed it! I feel like it's more of a discus throw. Better hope I'm good at discus, guys. Ah. Now we have to find it. Wade, go start the excavator. Found it. All right, I hope this holds. Okay, I am choosing to believe that it is in the ground. Okay, it did a little bit of damage. All right, I guess Wolverine would have a bit of a squished brain, but to be honest, that's still pretty fucking impressive. This thing weighs 27 tons. So now you know, you just gotta run me over with an excavator.
I'll do that. That works for me.
You know, I quite like this hand axe. I think it's safe to say that this nanotech coating of nanobate alloy is so far one of the closest real-life versions of adamantium out there. I mean, the skull literally took a 27-ton excavator just to dent it a little bit, and I think Wolvie will be fine. Now, I think there's a few more questions that need to be answered in a future video. So if this video does well, I'm gonna have my entire skeleton made, metal-plated nanovate, and then put inside a ballistic lab dummy to be tested to the real limits. Make sure you subscribe, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram too, at the Hacksmith, because you're not gonna wanna miss that video. And go check out Hacksmith.store to grab a collectible nanovate collarbone. Now, I gotta go see Deadpool 3. I promised myself I wouldn't see it until I got this video out for you guys.
All right, you I need you to subscribe, because if you don't, you're gonna break this man. He's worked on this project for so long. Everybody is waiting for this video. If you don't subscribe, I'm gonna come to your house, okay? I'll find your house. I'm gonna start dating your mom, all right? I'm gonna become your stepdad. We're gonna work on house projects together. I'm gonna tell you you're holding the flashlight wrong. Sorry, that got out of hand. Do me a favor. Just hit like, hit subscribe. I love you.